And good evening, and finally we're live. Welcome to another episode of Life as People. Tonight from another wintry another night in Scotland. How are we doing, boys?
Well,
Busy, 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 doing good.
Yeah, cool. And how are we doing, Stu?
yeah, good apart from being a complete novice at being a techno.
That's not to worry about it. So I thought while like I said, sort of easing to this podcast. I mean, Ryan, you sort of tell us about your last couple of your last week, man, because you've had a busy week, so we can let you kick off.
Oh my God, busy week. I don't even know where to start. We shot a video on Tuesday for the brain surgery project by Low Vision, our friend from Detroit, and my dude from New York, Jimmy Hickey, aka Phantom Enigma. And it was well, you saw some of the stills, Tim. It's looking pretty far out there, but that was like a 12-hour shoot, and then I brought Phantom Enigma back to my place. We hung out for 3 days and drove him back. I'm gonna try to record the song for Wighead today. I have a song that I'm trying to record for my guy Joe Pokey, Jay Dookie out in St. Louis area, and then I'm going back to Detroit tomorrow to film another video for the brain surgery project, which is going to be just Phantom Enigma, and then I'm probably going to end up shooting more promos for Low Vision tomorrow night because I'll be out there, so why not? Yeah.
Oh, wicked, man. Well, I'm looking forward to next Sunday because he's on the podcast next Sunday for all technology aside.
Low Vision is?
Yeah, man. Next Sunday, No Vision's on.
Oh man. Oh man, he's excited. It was funny too because I was talking to like Wighead and him kind of at the same time, and Wighead was like, "Yeah, I'm gonna try to get in touch with him." And I said that to Low Vision, and Low Vision was just like, "No, don't try, do it." And
Exactly, man. So, as the title of tonight says, with this is Thinker tonight, and as you can sort of see, it's a shame we haven't got any pictures for the man, but the other
It's not a bad thing, believe me.
don't worry about it. Well, as you can sort of hear the voice, this is Stu. So Stu, I mean, obviously for people like Ryan and Rich and people that are listening, sort of like introduce yourself. I mean, how did you come across Thinker? I know this sort of story, but let Ryan and Rich know how you got to where you got to.
Yeah, think basically, it's about 2011. I was playing in a band called Scaraman, who were a ska reggae band, and I was kind of aware of Thinker, and it was the keyboard player in Scaraman who basically told me they were advertising for a bass player to stand in for a festival, quite a big festival as it goes, and I was kind of thought, yeah, I'll have a go at that. That'd be quite good, and yeah, I had to learn something like 18 songs in about 5 days, and then go and play a festival in front of 200-300 people. So it was quite a challenge, but it was really good. And from there, basically, just kind of stood in for him a couple more times. They had a bass player then, and he eventually left, and they asked me to join full time, and quite enjoyed the music and playing with them, and it's kind of went from there really, and been in there ever since, and just done an album which kind of trying to promote at the moment. So yeah, it's all good.
Which
There it is.
there it is. There's the fantastic album from the fantastic band Thinker.
Yeah, it's a lot of work. We've basically put 2 years into that. Sort of recording and getting everything sorted and re-recording stuff, and yeah, quite pleased with it in the end. It's good. It's a good feeling to have an album done. It's kind of something I've always wanted to do.
You say it took you 2 years. Was that just 2 years of getting the songs together, or 2 years of trying to get yourself into a studio?
We mainly recorded at home. With one of the guys in the band is in the Marines and has access to a lot of equipment. So it's kind of recorded in kitchens and front rooms and all that kind of thing. It was only we took it into the studio to get it mixed and mastered. Yeah, it's come out really well. We're quite pleased with it. But the whole process of recording, and some of the writing was done over the 2 years as well. Some of the songs were there already. Yeah, it's a long process, but it's been worth it in the end.
So when you said you recorded at home, is that you just recorded on what, phones, or did you have a like, little mini 8-track? Or?
Well, basically we had some proper sort of recording equipment. It's things like Pro Tools and things like that we used different times. Yeah, it was. Yeah, it wasn't really my domain, the actual recording part. I just plugged in a bass and played. But yeah, it was a good process.
So I mean, the funny thing for me, Stu, is obviously I mean you go back a long time, and and now you're kind of recognised as a bass player, and I mean as I'll quote my fellow colleague Ryan, who said you're badass at the bass, man.
Yeah, I was gonna chime in, right at some point and say, yeah, I mean, Tim told me he knew you, and then I was watching the video and I could, I'm hearing the bass, and I was like, I'm not a big fan of that type of music, but I have heard quite a bit of it, and I was hearing the bass, I was like, man, I don't know if I've heard a technical bass player like that, like on a, that style of music. Am I correct in assuming that, or?
It's difficult because I've kind of come from different backgrounds musically. So I was in a ska reggae band before that. As Tim will tell you,
I can hear that. Okay.
We were in a kind of rock band back in the 90s, so I've kind of brought those influences into it. And yeah, it's not everyone's cup of tea as music, definitely not. But I kind of think there's different influences in there that make it a little bit different from standard kind of folk kind of thing.
But that's what I'm saying. Like, is your style of bass? I mean, obviously I brought it up, but it seems to be. I don't know. I just haven't heard many groups actually have that sort of like technical style of bass to it. A lot of them will have like an upright bass or something like that. But it still seemed like you were doing. You were playing a lot more notes than most groups like that. Am I correct in that assumption, or am I totally off?
Yeah, I like to make it as complicated as possible, which doesn't do.
No, you did. You did.
Yeah. When I'm playing live, I kind of think, why didn't I just play root notes? But yeah, no, I mean, I just enjoy playing it. The bass, really. I mean, as Tim will tell you, I used to play guitar in the band with him. And a couple of bands after that as well. I was a guitarist, and kind of I got by, but kind of with bass, it just felt right really. And I was kind of a bass player by default because in Scaraman no one else wanted to be the bass player, so I thought I'd have a go at that, and yeah, it went all right.
You kill it on the bass, man.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, I'm in another band as well. We've just got a band started. It's actually myself and a couple of the other guys who are in Scaraman who quit at the same time. We're kind of going more down the funk road and maybe a bit of ska and kind of a fusion of sound styles of music, really, which I'm really enjoying as well. So kind of like to keep it different, to kind of do different styles of music, because for me personally, I'm into all kinds of music. Anything from metal through to classical, through to blues, jazz, ska, punk, you name it. I think my thing is there's good and bad in every kind of music.
Are you a fan of Bad Brains? Have you ever heard of them?
I've heard of Bad Brains, yeah. I've not heard enough to say I'm a fan, but I like what I've heard, definitely.
I enjoyed them quite a bit when I was in high school.
Yeah,
not anymore?
Yeah.
No, not anymore. I don't own any of their music right now, but now that I'm thinking about it, I'd like to go on iTunes or something and look it up.
Yeah,
you need to play some Bad Brains for the horse.
Cool.
But that's true though, man. I mean, that's the one thing I can definitely testify to you, Stu. You've definitely been a fan of all music ever since since I've known you, man. And like you say, I'd be interested to hear your funk side because I kind of I've heard some of your other stuff as well. And there's definitely a bit of a funk-based sort of like elements to you, man. So I'm looking forward to hearing that.
Yeah, I mean, I've always liked stuff that's got a kind of good groove on the bass or a good rhythm section behind it, you know. So yeah, and the new band we're called Dab Hand, which is probably the worst name ever. But finding a band name, you try and do that, it's just a nightmare.
Mate, if we're gonna go on worst band's name ever, mate, Dab Hand is nowhere near the bottom of the list, man.
It's not the best though, but it was the only one.
That's your name.
You should have had some of the suggestions they were coming out with. Really, you know, Dab Hand's actually quite good, I suppose, with it.
Oh, I got one for you. Hear me out. Okay, dog show rape scandal.
Yeah.
If you put that on a venue, I think they'll come.
Yeah, I think you're onto something there, definitely.
Mate, I've just got one word to say to you, mate. Citrus.
Clitoris, or even.
And there you go, man. That's why Dab Hand ain't a bad name for a band, man.
Yes.
Like
Yeah, point taken. Well, do you remember them though?
Wow. Mate, do I remember? How can I forget, my man? I mean, Stu, tell Ryan and Rich give a description of Citrus.
Possibly the cheesiest band you've ever seen in your life. Yeah, they were just, what were they, pop or?
Oh, mate,
it was kind of like Tight Fit back in the 1980s, if you remember them. Just one cheesy bloke and two girl singers. Absolutely.
Did you say it's called Citrus or Clitoris?
They might as well have been called Clitoris.
Once again, you put that on a venue and the people will come.
They probably would have made
between two girls. Yeah.
Where we going with it? Yeah.
If only that was true, Ryan, but they never turned up. Trust me, man. Trust me, they never turned up.
And Bagman, do you remember them, Tim?
Oh, dearie me, mate. That's what I'm saying. There you go. We're talking bad names for bands, mate. We're not two. Bagman. I mean, really.
Yeah, very true.
So like, going back to the thinker. I mean, you play a lot of gigs, mate. I mean, I'm always sort of watching your Facebook, and you know, and you play a lot of gigs. I mean, how many gigs would you say you play? You know, on average, I don't know. Last year, how many gigs would you say you played?
It's a tough one to say, really, because sometimes we'll go through spates of playing a lot of gigs, and then it'll go quiet for a little bit. And like I say, one of the guys is in the Marines, and he's very busy doing stuff with that. He plays in the Marine band, and they have a lot of stuff going on. So it's as and when people are free. You know, we tend to play sort of pubs here, there, and everywhere, and you know, it depends really on, like I say, if everyone's free. And at the moment, we're trying to sort of promote the album, so any gigs that come up, we'll take them if they're quite well paid as well. You know, it's always good to get a little bit of money for doing that, which I think every band should be entitled to, really.
Amen to that.
Sorry?
I said amen to that one, man. I mean, that's exactly true. But what I'm trying to say is, as you know, I mean, I've been down your part of the world for a long time. I mean, it's sort of like it's saying to me from someone who's looking from afar, let alone like Brian and Rich from America. There seems to be quite a sort of thriving live scene down that southern coast, and especially for the the kind of music you're playing. Am I correct in that, or am I?
Yeah, no, very much so. Yeah, I mean, it was more so with Scaraman, where it was a kind of ska reggae thing. there's a massive ska scene in Portsmouth. Lot of ska bands. We played some reasonably big gigs. We supported the guy at the Specials and so on and so forth. With Thinker, we tend to play more pubs, and we'll do a 2-hour set. The kind of thing a covers band would do, except we play our own stuff. So for some reason, we seem to get gigs doing that.
I mean, is the South Coast, like infected with hipsters then?
Yes and no. There's just a lot of live music around here, really. People seem to like coming out and watching live bands, be it in a pub or a sort of small to mid-sized venue. Which I think is a good thing. Definitely.
Well, I mean, 100% no, because it's one of the things that it's better to have somewhere where there's actually an audience out there and want to hear your stuff and stuff. And do you know what I mean? Is there quite a few sort of similar type folky bands, sort of that sort of style of music that's playing what you there's
a few, and you kind of tend to meet them at, I don't know, festivals or various gigs you do or whatever. So yeah, there's a few we're in contact with. But I mean, when I was in Scaraman as well, I'd kind of would have a few gigs where it was Scaraman and Vinker playing and things like that. So
okay, how many times? How many times, for instance, would you? I mean, do you ever sort of play with other sort of styles of music? Would you sort of like go with a rock band or a punk band or a
absolutely. I mean, the thing with Thinker is, I mean, the singer who writes a lot of the songs, very into the Levelers, who were kind of punk in their outlook, even if the music was a bit folky. So yeah, I mean, we did a gig just before Christmas with a punk band, and that actually went quite well.
Nice, man.
So yeah, I mean, I'm I think it's a great thing if you get two different styles of music, and I'd rather that than two bands of the same thing. It makes it a more entertaining night for everyone.
Well, I've often, I said to you before, I would love to see the day when you and Zealand was playing live here. That'd be a fantastic one, because I think there's a meeting ground between. I think, I don't know if Ryan particularly would agree with this. There's a meeting ground in a hint between the Thinker and the Zealand. There is that kind of earthy UK kind of feel to it. But other than that, you're very sort of divergent. But I would love to see the two of you play live together, because I love the idea of mixing different styles together. Do you know what I mean?
I always loved back in the 80s with one of my favourite bands, The Cult, when they went from being goth to being a metal band. And I always liked the idea of them having a crowd just full of goths and metalers who completely went into each other's thing, but I'm sure would enjoy the other kind of style of music, from the goth songs to the metal songs. I mean, I think Public Enemy and Anthrax did it back in the 90s. A joint tour, and you've got, your hip-hop fans and your metal fans. It would have been interesting to see who enjoyed the other type of music that they're, not supposed to be into. I think all music's connected anyway,
Well, I think there's kind of a myth too, that like people who do metal music only listen to metal music. People who do rap music only listen to rap music, and so yeah, I think it confuses a lot of fans sometimes. But at the same time, it's like you can't excel in one specific genre if you don't study the whole field. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
So that's kind of what I was saying about when I heard the bass and the Thinker songs, I was like, man, he is really killing it on that bass, and I would not have. It's a type of group that I wouldn't have expected to hear it from. And then to hear you say you played in ska bands and stuff like that, I can't hear it in now that you say it, it does, oh man, okay, yeah, I definitely could hear that in there. And it's the way you guys blended that, and just blending styles in general. I mean, really good job of that. It was really cool.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, and I think with any band, as many influences you can get in there, really. And that's why the new band I'm in is a really good thing, because we're kind of a really open book. I say it's a funk kind of bass, but there's a lot of different styles. There's a bit of ska, a bit of reggae, some sort of more rocky sounds, and happy to explore anything, which I think is a really important thing.
Yeah, funk. I was gonna say funk too. It's very reminiscent of some old funk bass playing.
Yeah, I mean it's fun to play kind of more upbeat stuff like that. You know, the ska bass and the funk bass is always
And that's what's weird
fun.
is you say it's fun to play, and at the same time, like it's a style of bass that I don't think you really hear a whole lot of nowadays.
No, I think
But at the
people are
same
too
time,
safe.
the best.
Yeah, when it comes to bass playing, it's there's more emphasis on the guitar or whatever else. But I think it should be a real group effort. You know, it's important to have a drummer who's adventurous and a bass player who kind of wants to put their own thing on it, and I think that kind of makes the whole finished output so much better, rather than it just being an amazing guitarist and singer. If you've got everything that's going in there, it just makes it more interesting. And yeah, it's a good thing.
Definitely agreed.
You actually to ask a question there, Rich. I can see you. Go on.
Oh, I'm sorry. I've been working on our logo. I'll throw it up there for you here in a second. I was going to try to upload it to Flickr right now, but it seems like Flickr's kind of locked down a bit. I was going to ask questions about lyrics. Do you write any of the lyrics, or not?
Yeah, on the album I wrote one song, which is quite an old song that I recorded before with Tim's brother Andy and a guy called Matt, who used to be in a band with Tim, myself and Andy back in the 90s. And there was another song as well where the singer Charlie hadn't finished it, and he just said, "Can you finish that one lyrically?" And I added a couple of verses. For me personally, I love writing songs, so I'd actually like to do more if I could. But it is more sort of Charlie's baby, this band. So, and he does write a lot of songs. So I have to sort of push my way in a little bit and try and get more songs in there.
Cool. Yeah, there was a lyric in one of the songs I was listening to that I kind of liked in the song "Unpure," when he says, "I'm finding it harder and harder to tell what separates heaven from hell." I thought that was a pretty cool lyric. But anyway, that's his. So you and Tim's brother go back a ways, huh?
Long time, yeah. I mean, Tim, myself, and Andy, Tim's brother, known him since about 3 years old.
Wow.
There's a lot of history there.
Yeah, no kidding. They know every embarrassing thing you've ever done, all that.
Yeah, we want to talk about motorcycle news, Tim.
This is the point of that. None of us can take ourselves too seriously, because I would never have a guest on like Stumo, because you know too many embarrassing things about me, my man.
Yeah, we'd have to leave town, mate, if we started on this.
Too many demons in the closet, as they can say, but they'd have to load in the closet, my man. But no,
yeah.
Sorry,
yeah, with Tim's brother Andy especially, I've always been able to sort of write really good songs with him, and we've always recorded together all the way through our lives, really. Mostly just for fun, but yeah, I think you get some people you get a real connection with musically, and Andy's definitely one of them. And yeah, we've written some great songs. The problem is the recording quality. It's never been brilliant, but yeah, some stuff I'm proud of, definitely.
Oh man, I mean, I can testify to that, man. I mean, you and him, I remember you two being, man, no higher than 2 foot tall and sitting there with guitars and sitting there banging out tunes in the old Condom days, man. Do you know what I mean? It's been there for years, my man. Yeah, that's the band you are, man. That's the original band, the Condoms.
Yeah, and then of course Screaming Space, which with Matt in there as well, was really good. And again, it's a shame we didn't have the recording facilities to do it justice, but yeah, it was good fun doing it.
Yeah, but just sort of like around the point, the bit I was trying to make with there was that, yeah, Rich, he's definitely been writing all his life. I mean, man, about everything, and do you know what I mean? It's one of the things. You're very prolific. I mean, this is one of the things that doesn't really come across in Thinker as much as you explained, that you are a prolific writer of tunes. I mean, man, I can definitely stand up and witness to that one.
Oh, thank you very much. Yeah, I mean, I don't get to do it so much in Thinker. In Scaraman, I wrote a lot of the songs. But where I've come into someone else's band, I kind of don't want to step on too many toes. You know, I push my stuff to a point, but you know, it's quite good just to concentrate on the bass playing. And with the new band, I've written a few things, and I recorded the CD of my songs last year as well. So there are outlets for it, which I'm quite happy with.
Are you putting a lot of your work up online?
I haven't. No, I need to sort of get onto that really. Just where I've been sort of busy doing band stuff, it's just getting the time to do it.
Yeah, that's what we were talking about earlier. We were talking about Maidsafe, and when you upload, eventually there's going to be that application N99, and get that stuff up on there. You really don't have to worry about it anymore. It's kind of archived into cyberspace in a decentralized way, and to me that's an exciting way for the new generation to get your music up there, and it's up there for good. And it's Go ahead.
It sounds really good. I mean, that's the beauty of sort of being in a band and having chosen like being a writer or whatever. There are a lot of outlets where you can actually get it over to the public now, whereas back in the day there never used to be. You had to, for being in a band, you had to like send a demo tape to a record company, and chances are they'd probably ignore it. But these days, you can get it up onto things like N99 and used to be MySpace and things like that, and people can hear it basically.
Yeah.
YouTube, all of these things.
As long as you have a cassette tape or something, that's one of the things I do. When I come across some interesting cassette tapes, I'll archive them. I came across this. It's almost embarrassing talking about it. He's a metaphysicist, kind of really quacky when you listen to him, but he says a lot of really cool things. And I came across like 40 cassette tapes that this guy had recorded back in the 80s, back in like the mid 80s, late 80s. You should hear it though. It's whacked out.
Seriously, that is awesome. Like I actually like collect some cassettes, and to hear that you have a 40 cassette set of a dude, a metaphysicist.
Yeah, well,
that is insane.
He says he channels the spirit Lazarus, which is a spirit that's never taken human form and refuses to, and says it never will. But when he channels the spirit, he talks with this really strange accent. It's almost Scottish-like too. The strange. So if it ever just changes its mind, it'll probably grow up in your neck of the woods. But anyway.
So you have these backed up?
Yeah, I'm starting to back. I've backed up one of them so far, but they're like 90-minute cassette tapes, right? And so
if you can give me any waves, if you can give me any wave files of stuff that you've backed up from those, please send me those.
Yeah, well, that's one of the things I'm looking forward to doing. I'm going to upload them to Maidsafe once Maidsafe's up and running, and anybody can access them. And I actually found him online. Apparently, somebody in Arizona is making a killing off of selling this guy's tapes. He'll sell audio recordings of this guy for $75 a piece. And I'm like, that's not right.
Oh.
This is a spirit. You can't, let everybody. If it's a spirit, it's just like just be ridiculous. Just put it out there. Well, but it's not the guy who actually channels the spirit. He's not the guy trying to make the buck. I don't think he may be. I don't know, but no matter what he's doing. Right. So here's his excuse. He could be, when I'm channeling the spirit, it's the spirit and it's a good spirit. But then when I'm not channeling it, I'm a greedy motherfucker. So maybe that's how it goes.
But I mean, on that very subject, Stu, have you still got all your cassettes backed up? I mean, have you got all the stuff way back through? You've been through.
I've got a few things, various demo tapes and stuff me and Andy did. Again, it's finding the time to just get it all backed up and.
But you actually got them in physical form, though.
I have, some of them, yeah.
Wow, man. Have you played any, you know, to see what the
Not
quality's
a
like?
long time. But it would be a fun thing to go back and play it because you kind of, if anything, you see a progression in kind of, you know, your musical talent and the way you advance writing a song and all this kind of thing.
Oh, 100%. I mean, I was more interested in the quality to see whether a cassette. I haven't heard a cassette for years and years and years, and see whether the actual sound quality.
Yeah, I mean,
Go on.
me and Andy used to record on those C15 computer tapes, and
Yeah.
the quality is just appalling, really. But you know, it's one of those things. As I say, it's fun to go back and listen to it, and
Well, Stu,
you know, sort of see where you were back then and what have you. But yeah.
I was going to say this dates us because we're the generation that, you know, if you during the days of amateur, I'm literally like a surgeon. I'm picking a whole cassette, you know, unscrew all the little screws. Do you know what I mean? Then tape it all together.
Yeah.
Kids wouldn't even know what we're talking about. We sound so old when we say that, you know that, bro.
I listened to a bunch of cassettes in the past. I haven't done it in probably a good 4 or 5 months, but for like a year and a half, like I was buying mad cassettes and I would play them at work, and because I didn't want to change the CD or whatever. I'd want to I'd be listening to something all the way through, so I was like, why not do it, you know, old school and actually have the whole album. You can't skip anything, whatever. And you know, I'd listen to so much ridiculous stuff, and I rarely had to actually do the old pencil trick. Like, and I remember that from when I was growing up, but like I rarely had to do it. And like when I bring up cassettes, the first thing people say are like, "Oh yeah, you remember how you used to put the thing in there and spin it back?" And I'm like, "Yeah, but I really didn't have to do it that often. It wasn't that like infallible of a or fallible."
It really depended on your cassette
technology.
player. Some cassette players,
yeah.
You must have had
tapes are crazy.
Well, yeah, I guess nobody wanted to update their cassette players back then.
Yeah, I had plenty of problems with cassettes being eaten, and then you'd have your favorite song, and it would be all crinkled up in your favorite parts, and
oh yeah.
It was the cassette version of a scratched record.
I mean, don't get me wrong. I think I lost one or two, but as far as the using the pencil, like it rarely the tape rarely got stuck in there, and I really didn't have to mess with it too much. But there were a couple tapes where I had to actually reposition. You remember the little styrofoam piece in the center, the actual like bottom side tape reel, and sometimes if that broke off. Yeah, it was felt sometimes, and if it broke off, like the tape would play like real slow. So you'd actually have to like pull out the tape and take like a pen and reposition this little piece underneath the tape reel.
Sure.
So you can put it back.
You leave the cassettes on your desk, on your dashboard, and yeah, they would just sort of melt off. And then if your cassette was there too long in the sun, then it was just.
Yeah.
Anyway, I don't miss it.
No,
it's still.
But it's the humbling thing. Listening back to a cassette, or you know, just makes you realise how far we've come. You know, and how easy we have it these days. Really, how many different forms of, you know, things you've got that you can access music on, which I think is a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
Well, you gotta remember the tape was like the last sort of medium that basically forced you to kind of listen to everything all the way through.
Yeah.
Like it didn't have that instant MP3 skip button or even CD players. Like it didn't have the skip button. The fast forward fast forward on a tape was
tedious.
Man, that was brutal.
Especially the 90-minute tapes.
Yeah, it would take like two and a half minutes maybe to rewind a whole tape.
I played a song at that time.
The thing is, bro,
it'd go really fast and then it would wind down. It would be like, click.
The thing was, Brian, we had nothing better to do back in the day. That was entertainment, man. That was a good 2.5 minutes of entertainment. Like, wow, it's
yeah. As you were anticipating hearing the latest Tiffany "Shake Your Love," I'm sure, Tim.
Oh, man, we go back further than that. So, I mean, I remember buying my very first ever thing when I bought was on cassette. I bought Deep Purple from W.H. Smith's down. You know what I mean? And it was such a shit selection of like what you could buy. Like, that's what I ended up buying. And that all quite ironically, like we were just saying then, the whole of that tape got tuned by a cheap Walkman that I was bought for Christmas. Great. Now I've now got nothing.
It's not bad to start with, though, Tim.
Well, that was outside influences, mate. I'm not going to go down any further down that line. But
I think I know you as well.
That was that. Yeah, but man, yeah. I mean, it was ironic. I'm not speaking out of how I see it, but it's a very kind of sort of like on stories on point with that. I bought that Deep Purple one, and I played it just on a little. Ironically enough, once during the days we used to do your computers, you had to put your cassette in. So I had the only tape player I had was one that I used to put my cassettes into, load the games into my ZX81 at the time. And I played it in that, and it all got weird and played great. And I put it on the wall, and then it got ripped. And my mum bought me to make up for that, my Deep Purple got one. She went and bought me Wham. Because she said, what is that? I'm like, Mum, you do not know me. How did you miss it? I mean, Wham. I mean, just hello, people. Do you know what I mean?
You like that tape.
Yeah, I'm sure you would have done that. Do you know what I mean? But
fell asleep listening to it.
I did. That's the trouble, man. I'm scarred mentally. It took me a lot of therapy to get out of that one.
You actually can't sleep without having headphones on playing that tape.
I mean, the bad thing is though, like you're just tapping on this, just how far we've come. I mean, it's an interesting perspective of you because you've obviously you've carried on playing all the time, and I've gone out and travelled the world and all that sort of stuff, and all the time you've been playing in bands, plugging away. You literally lived through every step of the progression that we've gone from being cassettes to where we are now, haven't you? You've seen every step.
Yeah, I suppose. I just thought I've always liked being in a band. Just I don't know, maybe it's the gang mentality of it, or I don't know quite what it is, but the whole thing of 3, 4, 5 different people coming together with their own ideas and making something out of it that's one unique thing. That's always appealed to me. And I love music, and to have other sort of viewpoints on music and different perspectives, and you're creating this one finished product kind of thing. It's always been a big thing for me. I've always enjoyed doing it. But it's funny what you say about the travelling thing as well. So as you know, I went travelling sort of about 14 years ago now. It's quite a long time. But if ever there was something that inspired songwriting, that was it. 100%. It was you're just experiencing all these things, and if you can write about them or have some sort of creative way of putting your feelings down, be it writing poetry or writing a book or whatever, I recommend travelling just for that reason alone. If you're a creative person, just seeing a bit of the world, it's a great thing. It really is.
Whereabouts in the States did you travel? I mean, I know sort of like I know roughly, but open that story up. Where did you sort of land, and where did you sort of live?
I went all over really. I started in New York. Actually was there for the Millennium, which was quite an experience in Times Square. I did Boston, Cleveland, Nashville, Memphis, New Orleans, Fort Lauderdale, and Miami. And it's just amazing sort of experiencing all those different places because they're all very different. Yet they're in this one country, which I find brilliant. That you can get so many different types of place in one country, and so many. I mean, even the thing with the weather, when it was freezing cold in New York, a month later I was in Florida and it was, bright hot sunshine. It's quite something.
And did you do that by what? Just hiring a car out, or did you do it by bus?
No, I greyhounded it, which was an experience in itself. The people you meet on Greyhound buses are brilliant. you know, all kinds of walks of life and types of people, and yeah, there's something I'm really glad I experienced.
Have you YouTubed on the Greyhound?
Sorry?
No, I was saying to Ryan and Rich, have you ever YouTubed on the Greyhound?
Yeah, I've done it once. I never want to do it again.
How long ago was it? Because I'm thinking about.
It's
taking
not.
one to New York.
It just depends, I guess. Maybe it depends on where you're going. Partly, I don't know. I would rather take a train if I could. And Amtrak or something. But now the Greyhound experience is. I was near the back, near the bathroom, so maybe that was part of it.
Well, how long ago was it?
That was about 8 years ago.
Okay,
Yeah.
see, my friend Phantom Enigma was telling me they've updated it, and he said and I actually looked at some of the vans, and they actually do look pretty ridiculously nice. I guess he said they have all the any sort of charger you can imagine there. And,
yeah, I suppose it depends. You're right. If it's an updated one with comfortable seating and maybe a display in front of you to keep you entertained, maybe it's not so bad anymore. But my experience was great. My worst experience with traveling, though, was I was taking a ferry from where was I? La Paz in the Baja over to Mazatlan and to the mainland, and it's about a 16-hour ride. And it was on a motorcycle trip, so I found the cheapest ferry I could take my motorcycle onto along with myself, and they called it the Black Ferry because it's the ferry that hauls the trash and everything that you don't want to put on a the consumer grade ferry. And it was so nasty because I was so tired. I get my bike up on this ferry and I'm kind of wanting to stay near my bike because everything looks really shady and ratty. But you have to go upstairs and they don't have they don't have enough seats for everybody. So you have people sitting on the floor and then midnight rolls around and everybody's tired and people just start sleeping, right? Well, I fell asleep up on the top deck. And I figured I'll just hang here, or maybe I'll sleep, through the night up on the top deck. And then it started to drizzle, around 2, 3 in the morning. And so I figured, okay, I'll go back downstairs to the main deck, and you could barely walk into the room where everybody was sitting, and there are people just sprawled out on the floors, and you had to be careful not to step on anybody. I finally found a place to lay down, and I was really surprised because I was like, oh, there's a decent amount of room right here. So I laid down and I fell asleep. Well, I wake up the next morning, and it turns out I was sleeping right next to the freaking bathroom. And it just grossed me out. I felt like so nasty. It was pretty disgusting. I was like, I couldn't wait to take a shower the next day. And I'll never, for an extra $50, I could have been on the party all night ferry, and instead I tried to, be a miser, and I ended up really regretting it. I'll never do that again. So.
I tried.
Yeah.
I tried sleeping on a Greyhound bus one of the nights to try and save some money, and it was a 24-hour bus ride between New Orleans and Fort Lauderdale, and I wouldn't recommend it to anyone. It's the most uncomfortable experience I've ever had. But
do tell.
But yeah, I'm glad I tried it. It did save me some money, so it was all good.
How bad was it? Come on, tell us about it.
Really bad. Driving on a Greyhound bus, you never know who you're going to get next to you and what kind of people you're going to get there. And I just had some of the noisiest people out, and you get no room for sitting it as it is, let alone trying to sleep. So yeah, no, I wouldn't recommend it to anyone.
For someone who's never been on one, that journey you're talking about there, Stu, is that a non-stop, or do you stop in every little town and village on the way?
Yeah, pretty much everywhere that has a bus station they stopped at.
Oh God!
I think it's once an hour or something like that.
Yeah. I mean, they're very popular as well. The other thing I heard was, I don't know how true this is, but when you're released from prison, you get a Greyhound ticket. That's the one thing they give you. I don't know if that still applies but I actually met someone who'd just been released from prison on one of the Greyhound buses, and it was the most surreal journey I've ever had. Basically, he started chatting to me and told me he'd been in, I think it was an accessory in an armed robbery or something, and and he was just a really nice guy, and I don't know, it was kind of, we ended up playing cards, and it was basically porno cards, but it was normal cards. Can't begin to tell how surreal that was. But again, like I say, he was a really nice guy, and it kind of enriches your travelling when you meet people like that.
Yeah.
Tim, I'm curious, what are you going to draw for Stu on the mind map?
I've got that many memories of that man printed on my mind that I could just draw one blindfolded. You know what I mean?
You should draw him playing porno cards on a Greyhound bus.
but no, I mean, so like you say, you went over to Fort Lord. I mean, what part of did you enjoy the most over there? What part of the States?
In America, it's hard to say. I mean, I love New York. New York was brilliant. We were there for a month, and that was just about right. Just enough time to experience everything. If there's any places I like to go back and get another night. Yeah, I mean, all of the places for different reasons. Just the whole music scene there was brilliant. I went to Graceland more to annoy my dad than anything, but it's actually a really good place. Very touristy, but it's one of those places I sort of think maybe, even if you're not massively into Elvis, it's worth going and have a look, just to see what all the fuss is about, if nothing else. But after America, I went over to Mexico, and that was completely different. But equally as good.
Well, I don't think you know, but Rich is based just on the border. He's down in New Mexico, so
okay.
Yeah. So I was in Juarez about 3 weeks ago, and it's interesting. It's a slightly depressing sometimes, because the part that I was in, it was all abandoned. There's all these large buildings that had fences in front of them, and apparently it was next to the consulate or something, and the consulate moved, and when the consulate moved, all of the small business around it couldn't survive. So it was just like a large neighborhood that was basically, like Detroit or something, just nobody there. Kind of, and then just the general idea is like when you go into Mexico, I guess it doesn't matter what part you go into from. You have your indigenous Indians there selling, cajete or caramel and gum, and that's not bad, whatever. But you do get a sense of the desperate nature of the government or of the system there. At the same time, though, it's like there's a lot of wealthy people there too. So I imagine it's just a much larger divide, between the people who are making good money and the people who are barely getting by.
Very much.
And unfortunately, the U.S. is going that direction too. It's just the divide between the really wealthy and the people barely getting by is getting larger and larger all the time. So it's just like that. Who knows where it's headed? I just don't want to see it get too much of a divide, because I don't think it's healthy, for any society to have a group of people who can't relate to most of the people. You walk out and you're like, okay, you're driving your $50,000 car, and it's paid for, and then and it's just the disparity is just ridiculous, and you have people who can barely get by, and I know, the same old tune. It happens everywhere in the world. It's just I like the idea that David Irvine, the guy who developed Maidsafe, has. It's like everybody should get paid for their creativity, their product, and so he's creating a system where people can get paid for the value they add to society. Because when you use this decentralized network, whatever, like you as an artist, you put your music up there, anyone who accesses that file, well, you automatically get paid SafeCoin because somebody somewhere in the world downloaded your music. And if your music becomes wildly popular, you get a lot more income coming in because you're adding value to the network. And so it kind of turns the system upside down by taking out the third parties and the labels and the people who are controlling the distribution. And it turns it to a system that's far more equitable and is based on technology and mathematics. And the greed equation, the greed part of the equation, is almost disappeared if it's successful. And that's part of the reason why I enjoy doing these with Tim, is because I love getting this word out about Maidsafe and how it's going to affect our reality. It's going to change reality. People actually getting paid for their product, for their creativity and their art, in so much as you successfully distribute it, or I should say the word gets out about you. When people go to look for you and they look at your music and listen to it, you're automatically getting paid just for that buzz, right? And then if you become somebody who's very successful because your music resonates with a lot of people, there's nobody cutting you a check for 10% or 5% or 3%, or even if you're lucky and you're getting a large distribution on something like iTunes, you're only getting 30%. Well, with Maidsafe, you're getting 99%, or even better, depending on how you distribute it. So, the world's about to change in that direction, and I'm happy to see it because I think that's going to allow people who would have otherwise been kept down. It's going to allow them to flourish, and so there's a battle ahead because naturally the people who have these distribution outlets and who are in the top 1%, and they're going to start to see that turning to dust and falling through their fingers, and they're not going to know what to do about it. They were good at marketing perhaps, and maybe they're good at a lot of things, but if they're not creating the content themselves, they're going to find themselves losing out. So I'm looking forward to that day. I'm going to try to do everything I can to make that day happen.
It can only be a good thing. I've read about a lot of different bands over the years from a music point of view who've made some great music, put some brilliant albums out, and then suddenly things have dried up for them and they're in debt. And you think, how did that happen? You've sold all these records and there's some record company somewhere who's made a massive profit out of them, and it just seems wrong. If a band does well, or a writer does well, or any kind of creative person has done something, then they should be rewarded for it. I think that's a right thing. I really do.
Yeah.
Going down to the level of music here, if a band plays a gig, or if someone does a theatre play or whatever it is, they're working in a way, so they should be. They're entertaining people, or they're doing this, that, or the other, and they should be paid for that or rewarded for that. Not some promoter getting all the money, or record company, or publisher. It should be the person who's actually done the creative thing, getting rewarded for it.
I agree. I see that. I think that is going to happen, and it's going to be, I think, in large part due to technology. Maybe has a little bit to do with smart contracts and the like, because I hear about people who they get a gig, and then turns out that the person who hired them to do the gig, well, they decide, well, this didn't quite work out, or maybe you were a little late, and then they just try to cut them out of their proper payoff. And I'd like to see a time when it's like things can be done a bit differently, to where it's like, okay, I showed up, I played, and maybe there's a way to verify it, to prove that you were there and played. And it's kind of like part of the contract would be, hey, this person, he did show up, he did play, and the agreed upon amount that he was going to get paid is held in. It sounds like all technical, but it's held in escrow in effect. and it takes 3 parties to sign off on it. So naturally, the person that played is going to sign off and say he gets paid. And then there's the person who is the person who would wanted him to play at his club, and he can sign off on it. But then if he wants to be a bit of a dick about it, there could be a third party who can verify, either because there was a recording at the event or something else. He says, no, that person did play there. I'm going to let this contract go through and pay this person off. Sounds technical or whatever, but I think these systems will become a lot easier to employ later on and make it to where artists can protect themselves more easily against unscrupulous players, against people who would just want to take advantage of the artist. I mean, it could be almost
artists, even artists like to take advantage of other artists. I just saw one. One of my favorite rappers and producers, Blueprint, was just tweeting about it the other night, and you could tell he was pissed because he sent out quite a few tweets, and it was basically like, one of his things was like, why don't you go to a doctor and tell him he's not keeping it real because he wants to charge you? Like, people saying to it, like, they just want him to work for free, and that's kind of, I've just been here. I've told Tim about some of these events that have been happening in this crazy week of mine, and just a lot of stories about pay to play, people having to pay a promoter or pay a club just to do songs. I've even heard to the point where somebody had played to do a certain amount of songs and was actually cut off before they could play all those songs, and shady people disappeared. So the money guy's never to be found. Like once it's kind of like I guess it would almost be like paying your taxes or whatever. Like if you try to pay your taxes and then get money back from it, like after the fact, like it's already in the system. Sorry, like your money's gone. Like so once they paid these promoters whatever, like they're not getting their money back. And then I've just been hearing quite a few shady stories of artists screwing people, promoters screwing people, just. Yeah.
So I mean, imagine a system where you have an artist who says, okay, or you have all right, let's just say there's 2 clubs that you can play. One of them has somebody's using new technology that enters in contracts with the artists, and then another one is the old school, like, okay, it's my word and my handshake. Well, let's say the one who's using technology could say, okay, I put aside $500. It's being held in escrow. You hold a private key, I hold a private key, and a third party agreed upon by both of us holds the third key. And so then you're going to get paid if you show up and do what you're supposed to do, as long as 2 of the 3 people agreed that the contract was fulfilled. And so it's not really that hard to consider how, in the future, this is going to be something is going to probably be an application on the telephone for it, and it'll be done with digital currency. So you don't even have to be there to be handed a check. All that once the 2 people clear it on their phone, it's automatically accredited to that person's wallet. So, and then that can be divided up with the group. Okay, so you have 3 band members, and it's divided up equally among the 3. So as soon as the 3 keys are signed on that contract, then each of those 3 players automatically is accredited to their wallet. So there's no funny business with somebody, oh, I lost the check or I lost the cash. It's just all that's out of the equation anymore.
And that can only be a good thing.
Absolutely.
The amount of times that happens, I mean, when I played in Scaraman, the ska band, talking about the promoters, the amount of gigs we used to do where a promoter would put you on at what they'd say was a good venue, and they would then ask you to sell a certain amount of tickets for a gig. I'm like, well, this is not really our job. You're supposed to be doing that. And I kind of refuse to do gigs like that now. I just, it's a waste of time. Because you've got a lot of hassle trying to get your mates to come to a gig, and you've got to worry about playing the music and all of this kind of thing, and it's very stressful. And yeah, the thing like the Maidsafe thing is a great thing in that respect as well. And
yeah.
I mean, as you know, Stu, one of the things is I think is what you've just been tapping on then is that one of the things we've definitely noticed in the podcast, people I talk to, is when you're creative and you have something in your heart and your soul, you put it out regardless. I mean, we know that from the times, and you must know that from the amount of bands you've been in. it's kind of like you stay away from agents, you know, as we know, and we could talk about that for hours, about how to, you know, these people are just interfering people, and all you want to do is just put your stuff on a, like I say, back in the day, a cassette or on a CD or out now as it is on a SoundCloud or whatever it is you want to distribute it. And all you want to do is just distribute it to people and get some payment back. That's all. This is quite a simple process, and the other people just interfere with it, as we know.
People like riding coattails.
Yeah, exactly. You know. I don't know. You know. I mean, well, as you were tapping into, Ryan. I mean, it's endemic in the whole of not just the music industry. You know, I could talk about it in the arts. It seems in every industry. I'm sure it's the same in the photography industry and that sort of industry. It's all the same. It's just these leeches that just want to suck out, and they become as we've been saying all week, right? In Facebook, they become a pariah and an interference in it all. And you know, at the end of the day, as I was saying to you the other week, and you know, this week, you know, it's like what's happening in the events the last sort of 2 days with you know, what's gone with ceiling demons and stuff. Is at the end of the day, you don't want those people interfering. All you want to do is just put your stuff out. Now, I've kind of like, you know,
We lost Stu.
Oh, he'll be back in a minute. I'll text him in a minute. Do you know what I mean? But it's just one of the things. I mean, I just want to sort of mention this now because I know that, you know, definitely, you know, sort of put it out as a sort of a heartfelt plea. I was telling Ryan this last night, but last couple of days, one of the I'd almost call him a legendary fan of the Ceiling Demons. Every gig I've been to, apart from about 2 or 3, he'd been there. He was in his mid-30s, an old school mod punk boy, massive Demons fan, and he committed suicide last couple of days, and it's, you know, I don't know anything more or anything less than that. You know, it's just another one down, and it's something that we've talked about a lot on this podcast, and it's what I was just trying to say. At the end of the day, all we want to do as musicians and artists and everything else is just get our message out. We don't want to have all these people interfere because there's things that are too important. And the reason I mention this is I know that it's, you know, as we know, the Demons, you know, it's something that, you know, Ryan, you've done the video for and stuff like that. And you know, sometimes the reality hits you slam in the door again, and it's kind of like, these aren't vague concepts about, you know, people that may not. No, this is now a friend I knew recently. It's another one gone, and I'm never going to see again. And you know, anything that's going to empower, like Stu said, anything that's going to empower us people who are creative, that we can have more of a voice. As I said, then we can hopefully raise the levels of empathy in the world, and hopefully we won't have any more lost sort of people. So I was just, you know, I just want to put the call out to you, to Paul, wherever you are in the universe. Have a good ride, brother.
Life is people.
Life is people. Sorry, I didn't want to put it down on everything, but I just had to sort of mention it because it's been got like sort of like hit me like a stone in the last 2 days, and I think that's the kind of tone really it should be sort of spoken, because we shouldn't be, as we said, we shouldn't be afraid of mentioning these sort of things, you know, at all. This is what it's true. We're a group of men around here, and as we said before, we don't talk about emotions and things like this happen, and you know, this is a reality. These are real people that we're never going to see anymore. So all power to us talking about it, as I say.
Yeah.
And even like you said, the sort of visual association, you know, with the Ceiling Demons, like, you know, I'm sure you'll be at a concert at some point, and you know, it'll hit you like, you know, I used to see that guy here all the time, and you know, now he's not there, like.
Well, I'm sure every band has got them. I'm sure you've got them, Stu. There's always a really lot of loyal follower, and they do become kind of the sort of scenery of the, like you say, the event. It's not just the band on stage. It's like, oh, did Paul turn up, or did, you know, John turn up, or whatever. I'm sure the same with you, Stu. You must have sort of fans who follow you everywhere. Your little groupies, surely.
You're not talking to me.
Yeah. Yeah, you get a few turn up at various. Depends on where you play, really. But yeah, there are people who sort of or whatever. But yeah, it's you know, it's nice to always see people there. When I was in the ska band, we had one guy called Adam, and he would always come up at the front and start leading people dancing, which was always a really good thing. So yeah, it's nice to see it when they're there.
Cool, man. I mean, it was one of the things I was going to say, sort of like Rich. Well, yeah, you're when I heard Thinker, I thought immediately of you because I thought, oh, you associate with is it Psycho Circus, the band you do sort of work with? I thought they're kind of similar, sort of that kind of country feel. Do you agree, or?
Yeah, I do. They do have a similar thing going on. I would just categorize it in the folk category. But yeah, Secret Circus. I've never worked with them per se, but we've done a video for somebody that they recorded for. Secret Circus themselves are a band, but they have some good recording equipment in a town nearby. And they're also just really cool people. I've spoken to the lead singer, and yeah, I think they have so much potential as a band. It would be nice to get them on at some point, and onto the Life is People. I think they'd have a lot to say. I think they're from Sweden, is where they're from. I was thinking Iceland before, but yeah, they're from Sweden.
Okay.
And,
but like I said, is that same sort of kind of style of?
Yeah, it is. It's a very similar style of, like I say, I would call it folk music, but I don't know. Just because you have the acoustic guitar and sort of there's not a lot of heaviness into it. I always think of folk music as something that has a message that is easy to listen to, without, you know what I mean? So
yeah. Well, I've just had a text message off Stu. His internet connection is down, so just to let people know why he's disappeared.
Yeah.
So, but
well,
go on.
Oh, I was gonna say I need to tap out again.
Cool, no, that's cool, man. I mean, I'm quite happy to. I mean, I'm sort of. It's been a bit of a sort of on and off one tonight. Just sort of like heads up to sort of people. I'm going to be doing a podcast Wednesday night. I'll let obviously you and Ryan know about what times exactly, but with Ranting Richie. Oh, Stu's back, perfect. With Ranting Richie, so yeah, I'll send you the link to that, Rich. But if you can,
I'll do my best. If anything, I'll try to show up just for a minute on my phone.
Yeah. But I'm saying,
fun.
But if not, I'll next Sunday we'll see. I'll catch you next Sunday, Rich. Anyway.
Yeah, that sounds good. All right, y'all take care.
Rich. All right, see you later, Rich.
All right, bye.
Later, Rich.
Take care. It's nice meeting you, Stu.
Nice meeting you too, mate.
So I mean, how many sort of like really think at the street, London? What's the crack with gigs at the moment? Have you got any gigs lined up, or?
Yeah, apologies, Tim. My internet connection keeps going, so I'm probably missing bits.
Don't worry about it, man.
We've got a couple next month, and then one in March, and then nothing after that.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, we're always looking to book stuff up, and as I say, I'm going with the other band as well. We're hoping to get sort of cracking on gigs soon. So, yeah, exciting times.
I mean, what's your sort of like? Your range at the moment? Because obviously you do the whole of the Southern Coast. I mean, how far sort of north do you go? I mean, do you sort of go beyond Birmingham, or up to Birmingham, or?
No, we've not really got up that far. It tends to be the south at the moment. Obviously, I'd love to get further up than that. It's getting everyone together to do that and actually getting the opportunities. We did a tour, not last year, the year before, of the West Country. So we sort of went right down into sort of Cornwall and Devon, and sort of five or six nights and just playing various pubs. It was a really good laugh. You kind of have to get on with everyone to be able to do something like that. I can see how bands break up easily. When you're sort of stuck in a kind of same vicinity for a long time, it's not always the easiest of things.
Yeah, I mean, how did you find? I mean, Cornwall's one of the parts of the UK I've never been to. I mean, to sort of like just a brief description of it, it is kind of like on the edge of the. They actually count themselves as a separate country down there, don't they?
You'd think to talk to them there, yeah. It's a beautiful part of the world. It's really lovely down there. Yeah, it's very scenic, and you know, a kind of locals place, if you like. So you go into a pub and, you know, you have to really sort of impress them to be accepted.
Okay.
But it was a good experience to do it, you know.
Okay. And I mean, obviously, when you play live, will you do the, you know, like a lot, like you end the album on, you know, a cover? Are you asked to sort of like, well, part of the gig is you've got to play a cover, or they just let you free rein, do whatever you like?
To be honest, we got a free rein, really. I mean, sometimes people will request a cover, and, you know, if we know it or we can blag it, then we'll do it. But it tends to be our stuff, really, and we think we're throwing a couple of sort of Irish sounding reels and levelers cover or something like that, you know, so that people don't get completely bored. But, you know, it's mainly our stuff, really.
Okay, I mean, and that's one of the things I was, you know, been sort of like definitely wanted to ask you was like, how do you find? I mean, a two-step question really. I mean, obviously the process of you must sort of like do rehearsals and jams together. But how do you find doing that? As in, do you get to do rehearse quite a bit? And the second part of that question is, how do you find rehearsing about a drummer?
Firstly, we don't rehearse very much, which probably sounds a bit sort of big-headed. It's not. The fact is, with the band, is the fiddle player Spud is a Marines. He's a professional musician, and Charlie's very accomplished as well. So it's kind of, I'll practice on my own sometimes, but we tend to rehearse once every now and then. It's not a regular thing. And normally it's okay with gigs because we've been playing the songs that long. With regards to the drummer, we actually have percussion sometimes. We'll have a cajon player with us, or a foot drum or something like that will keep a lot of the rhythm. But as a bass player, it's more of a challenge playing without a drummer, definitely. You know, with other bands I've been in, there's always been a drummer, so you can just lock into him all the time, or whatever he's playing. But with this, it's almost like the bass has to provide the rhythm on some of the songs, which is not always that easy.
So when you work, I mean, okay, will you ever pull a drum machine out, or will Des ever come out of the closet and?
We have to wipe the dust off him first. No. It's, you know, it can be done without a drum, definitely, and as part of the challenge. You know, some of our songs wouldn't sound right with a lot of drums on them, whereas some of them would probably benefit from more percussion, what have you. So, but it's, you know, it's kind of, it's been the band setup. You know, we've got the foot drum, which works on some of the songs, and on the album we've used quite a bit of percussion as well. A lot of it's just on the cajon,
Right.
which has come out really well as well. So, yeah, it's kind of how it is, really.
I mean, I definitely recommend people go and check out the Thinker YouTube. You know, just type in Thinker into YouTube and have a look at their Stellar sets. I mean, well, tell us about that, man. It looked brilliant. I mean, it looked, the reduction on it was fantastic. I mean, tell us more about that.
Well, basically, it's an idea of Charlie's, the singer, really. It's actually a cellar below. It used to be a nightclub where we did it, and it's basically disused now. So we just say broke into there isn't quite the right word, but we used the premises, and just recorded some songs, set a video camera on us, and it was a kind of a couple of takes really on each one, and yeah, it's just to promote the band really. Just, we haven't really got a lot of stuff on YouTube, so the idea was to kind of, you know, get something more visual out there as well. And yeah,
Okay.
it came out okay. We were quite pleased with it.
No, I mean, I don't know what Ryan thinks, but I thought it was a bit visually quite arresting. The lighting you had was fantastic.
Yeah, that was Charlie's idea, and yeah, it looked really good. So
Yeah, I agree. The color scheme was, yeah, very. It wasn't just like a typical black and white. You know what I mean? Like, it had a certain originality to it. You know.
yeah, it kind of it worked quite well for us. So I prefer black and white
Definitely.
in general for band videos and things anyway. I mean, it gives it more of an atmospheric quality, and Yeah, no, it worked well for us. It was good.
And the other one I was going to sort of say to you, Stu, related to the album. On the inside cover of the album, where was that photo? Whereabouts is this?
That's actually down in Cornwall. That was from when we
Okay.
went on that little tour. It's just a
Right.
photo of the singer took, and we just wanted something to put on the inside that wasn't a picture of us, really. And it seemed to work okay.
So was there any sort of reason why you want to sort of like use the band picture there? You know what I mean?
You'd have to ask Charlie why he put it there, but it seems to work. So.
I mean, it's always fascinating me, man. Band photos are one of the most sort of like funniest things in the world because, as we should say, well, be serious. You can't do it, can you?
You've got to kind of have something where you're not trying too hard, or you're going to look ridiculous.
Well, that taps perfectly into like, I mean, Ryan at the moment is doing some video shoots. He was saying at the beginning of the podcast, he's doing some video shoots with a rapper called Low Vision, and it's exactly that. I mean, well, Ryan, talk us through that. I mean, talk about not taking yourself too seriously. I mean, that's perfect what you're talking about.
Wait, what's that?
The Low Vision video was the same, the very fact that you can't take yourself too seriously. And it's really hard to it almost becomes pretentious, as you were saying. But sort of tell Stu about what you sort of like the feel of what you've been doing this week with Low Vision, the sort of the visual style and stuff, and how you're messing around with the shoot.
What, the video we just did on Tuesday?
Yeah, with Low Vision.
Oh man, he was he's wearing this and the first thing we shot was me wearing this sort of ridiculous snakeskin suit with a Ceiling Demon's mask that I had made in like a derby hat, and I was supposed to be like the security guard for Low Vision, who was playing a character that we called the Head, and he's supposed to kind of be like a Ceiling Demon type Illuminati, so the guy behind the sort of all the power or whatever, and he was wearing this black suit with a red tie, and he just had a big giant potato face mask on, and he came out and he would be dancing like Rick James, and he'd throw his hands up like Nixon, and start parading. We had like a bowl of fake brains in front of him, and he was like dumping pills on it and injecting it with needles. Oh man, like I said to Tim, like it was one of the best experiences of my life, like directing him. I can only see him through my mask, and he can only see me through his mask, and he's wearing this giant potato head mask, and I'm telling him like, oh, look, yeah, do this, do this. As I was talking to him, I was like, oh my god, like we look so ridiculous, I can't even believe this. And people are gonna notice it when they see it, because it is the still shot is ridiculous, and we made this fake brain, and I haven't said what I made it out of yet, but I made it out of a cantaloupe and ground turkey, and it's like literally just like cut the top half off of a cantaloupe, hollowed it out, started to the ground turkey, and then sort of designing it with like just anything like a spoon, or basically I used a fork, I think, and I would just make like the line down this, and then kind of like swirl it around the one parts to give it this brainy kind of feel, and then we just started dumping fake blood on it. After that, it was like, dude, oh man, it was so gross.
Sounds like a lot of fun, doesn't it?
Oh, it was a 12-hour day though, but at the same time, like it didn't even matter, because we were laughing the whole time. We were having so much fun. I think a picture of Bill Cosby makes a cameo in the video.
No video would be complete without one.
Oh yeah, it's pretty weird. They were Phantom Enigmas like sitting Indian style in front of this bowl of
okay. Is this video available?
I've been so busy. And he stayed with me the past 3. So I just got into my computer, and I was just posting a few things last night. I had to get ready. I'm doing things I got to record today, and then tomorrow I got to go back and I got to prep for the video tomorrow, which I'm going back up and doing tomorrow. So it's mainly just kind of Phantom Enigma's from New York. He's in Detroit right now, and he's going back, I believe, the first week of February. So we're trying to squeeze in a lot while we can. So it's hectic, but at the same time, I'm really happy that I have this footage that I can go back to, and after once he leaves, I can just have all this time, be like, okay, time to rest, and actually look at all this stuff and
Yeah, put it all together.
good
I'd be
work.
interested to see it, the video, definitely, when it's finished.
Oh yeah, I am too. It's gonna be weird. We're going for this sort of like 70s like VHS grindhouse horror type feel, and there was Low Vision was wearing he's wearing like a red Adidas like tracksuit and a red Kangol hat, and he had these big white rimmed glasses at one point. Like
Wow.
about it. Like I told him at one part, I was like, just, like act like you're coming through the door and you're dragging a dead body, and just kind of give me this look at the camera, like you're looking around to see if anybody's watching you. And oh my God, the looks that he was giving me, like he'd be in one direction, then he would just turn and give me this weird look. And oh man, it was hilarious. Like we watched him afterwards, and everybody was dying. Like, oh, this is great.
So
The Kangol hat.
Stu, man. So a couple of things. Where can people go and buy your CD, and where can they find out more about the band?
Same place really, on our website, which is www.thinkermusic.co.uk. If you actually go on there, you can buy the album and get a bonus CD, which is about 8 tracks, I think, which is just various sort of live tracks and tracks that didn't get on the album, that kind of thing. I think that goes up to the end of January. That's available for. Yeah, and then we've got a Facebook page as well and Twitter.
Wait. You've got a Twitter page?
Yeah, I've just set one up.
Man, this is breaking news for Life is People. This is breaking news. Go on.
You heard it first. You heard it first.
This is a world exclusive. So where can we find you on Twitter then? Oh. Oh man. Oh. Stu, can you hear us, buddy? Oh, well, for those people listening, Stu's frozen.
Man, we almost had an exclusive.
We almost had a one exclusive there going on. I don't know what has happened there. Well, I knew Stu had to go anyway, so I've seen he's frozen in the page now. I will post his Twitter page up. I will post it on, through my through the various accounts and stuff like that, and you can pass it on. I'd recommend definitely people go and check out them on YouTube. It's been a great conversation tonight with Stu. I don't think he can still hear us because he's still on the screen. So, but right, man, feel free. I'm going to leave you to the last insightful thoughts, man. Go on.
Is that him texting you?
Yeah, man. He's just texted me to say his internet connection's gone, man. So that's definitely him and that is gone.
Tim, you're totally in the Zen position right now with your legs crossed, your phone in your hands, and your headphones on.
Right, go on, my Zen master, I'm ready for the final enlightenment from you, man.
I don't even know, Tim.
That's perfect enlightenment, man. I don't even know.
I don't even know. We're so busy. I'm so busy. The world's busy.
Well, while we're here, man, I will definitely put a few shouts out. Like I said, next Wednesday, I will let people know what time, but we're going to have Ranting Richie on. Fantastic, and I'll definitely recommend people go and check him out. Next Sunday is Low Vision, who I'm sure Ryan will tell us all about Low Vision, man. I mean, for everyone who doesn't know, go and check him out. But as we both know, he's a fascinating guy. I'm really looking forward next week to speaking to Low Vision. Oh, that was text.
Is he going to tell you what his Twitter is on the phone?
Let's hope so.
Oh, Low Vision's an amazing guy, and even Jimmy was. Phantom Enigma's been staying up with him up in Detroit, and he was like kind of found this thing of DVDs, and it was all older videos and live footage and some news promos, a public access thing that Low Vision had done years ago, and Jimmy just started watching them and started finding out all this information that like nobody really knew because Low Vision he really doesn't amp himself to a lot of people. He won't tell you a lot of things, or he just won't bring them up. He's a very humble guy, very shy guy when it comes to that sort of thing. But at the same time, he has a huge backlog, a very busy guy. He was in a group called the Greens, which was on Warped Tour in 2003. He was on his group, the Greens, was actually in an X-Men comic book, in X-Men Evolution 9. It's got a picture of Cyclops on the front, I think, and they actually were. What was it? I think they went to the X-Men compound to play a concert at the compound. Like that's Low Vision was in an X-Men comic book. I mean, what is that all about? Like, and Jimmy was watching this one night. He was like, dude, you gotta understand. I found this shit at like midnight one night. And like I just like walked up to Low Vision's room and was like, dude, like you didn't even tell me any of this stuff? Like you're in an X-Men comic book? And he's like, oh yeah. Like but Greens used to play with a live drummer and a live saxophone player. I guess they were big in what was it? I get the groups confused because I don't know the history that well, but he was in groups in San Francisco, a group in Dayton, doing gigs every night. Like I said, he'd worked on Warped Tour 2003. He's all over the place. You can look him up on YouTube. LOVISION. He's got tons of music videos. I think he's got like 4 that he did down in New Orleans. Couple others from back in the day, some really hard to find rare stuff that's just floating out there.
Well, man, yeah, definitely. I'm going to his Out There Entertainment.
He's got a great catalog. All of his, big fan of all the older stuff, the newer stuff.
Yeah, I mean, and Out There Entertainment as well, man. You can go and check him out on that. You Google search that, you'll find it.
Out of Nowhere Entertainment. Yep.
Yeah. And just like I say, I mean, what I did promise the boys, I'll put them out. The Leading Lights are playing this week in Halifax for you Yorkshire people listening to it, so that's what I put the crew out at. But yeah, I mean, it's one of the things.
One more time, where are they playing? Who's playing? Leading Lights?
Leading Lights in Halifax at the St George's, if I'm not correct, on Friday the 31st or the 31st, whenever that falls. But yeah.
In Halifax at St George's, Leading Lights. January
31st.
Or what? January 31st.
Yeah. And other than that, like I say, I've been telling you all week, right, Brian, we've got some great bands coming up, and I mean, if anyone wants to sort of check out some great new music, which we've been talking about all week, that's some stuff, I mean, just go and check out some of my feed and follow the lights, really. It's very fun to say.
I was pretty excited when you showed me Lesbian Horse last night.
Well,
shout out to Lesbian Horse. I'm a fan.
Definitely shout out to Lesbian Horse. I mean, I'm a big fan of a lot of them, but definitely a big shout out to my Australian boys, Tactics, whatever you want to sort of call them, an SAR, self-assembly rifle.
Oh yeah, definitely them too.
Two fantastic boys, and I've got to say now, lads, I'm looking forward to seeing you come on. But man, I'm not trying to high or low anybody, because we've got some great bands coming up, and I don't know, Ryan.
No, absolutely not. But it was like one of the random things that you just showed me last night, and like right away, like they had. I think it was like the first 2 tracks. One was like an hour long. I think one was 2 hours long. I was like, wow, okay. And yeah, it flowed together. It was an interesting night.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, like I say, but yeah, some great, as Stu was sort of saying, there's some amazing talent out there, and it's just, do you know what I mean? I'm looking forward to, like I say, not least.
All of them. I've loved all of them. I'm looking forward to loving all of them.
Exactly. And it's going to be it's good times, people, and you know these. As I keep saying, these are great days to live in because if nothing else, you've got the ability to listen to this stuff without having to go through, as we were saying earlier on, dodgy cassettes being passed through the postal system.
Whatever. I'm big on mixtape.
Well, exactly, man. But until next week, I'm just gonna kill it like that. I'm not gonna play a tune in this week. We're gonna go old school. I'm just gonna kill it. So I'm gonna say, life is people. I will let people know what time on Wednesday with Ranting Richie, which I'm looking forward to. But from Scotland, it's good night and life is people, people.
Life is people.